Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 137 of Verbal Graffiti with your host, Brian Glass, a.k.a. the B-Man, the People's Degenerate. Abraham Lincoln, overrated? Let's discuss. Yes, I do believe in my black heart. And you know, I'm not a racist because my heart is black, that Abraham Lincoln was a product of right place at the right time. Now he did nudge, maybe even a bit more than a nudge to the end of slavery. But I do believe that whether he was president or whether future presidents to come, slavery in the United States of America, probably more likely than not, I'll put the percentage at close to 95%, would have ended by the year 1900. Now, if you're a slave, right? If you were working for an owner without getting wages and benefits in the year 1860, you should be thankful, as we all are thankful of Abraham Lincoln, just because. He wasn't the main cause for the end of slavery. Does not mean we should not be thankful, that is, for Abraham Lincoln. And the reason why I bring this all up is because I believe the reason why slavery ended is because of technology and machinery. Once machines could do the work that the slaves were doing free of charge because they were slaves, their owners are horrendous people. The machines that could do all the work for a fraction of the price in manpower and time period that the slaves were doing it in, the slaves they became useless to the slave owners, and the slave owners went to machines. So I've always been of the belief, after I got through the propaganda that is public education and were able to think about it myself, No, it's technology and machines that ended slavery. And that's what I mean when I say Abraham Lincoln, product of the right place at right time. He was a president when the machinery got to the point where it could bypass the productivity of the slaves. Now, I bring this all up. I'm not trying to relitigate all the presidents and their rankings. And I do believe Lincoln, although a great president, not the sole reason why, we don't have slavery in this country anymore. And I am thankful that we do not have slavery anymore, is because of AI. Because I'm kind of like, where are we going as people? Where are we going? So you had slavery, and then we have this interary period, post, Reconstruction to 2025, where a lot of workers of all creeds, colors, genders, we work in offices. We do blue collar work. We're working for a wage. So you went from slave work to work for a wage, which is better, right? That's definitely better, but it's not utopia, right? All of us who are all of us W-2 people out there, we work, but we don't. Most of us don't love our job. We do it because we need to do it, because we have bills to pay. I don't need to go through it all. Like, we all know why we work, but it's definitely not utopia. It's definitely not. It's not the best system for humanity, but it's the best system we have now due to technology limitations. And but with AI, artificial intelligence, those limitations are being torn down. Like the Eastern Berlin Wall. There's suddenly all the smart people on the internet are telling me and all of us that, by the year 2035, there are going to be no W-2 workers. There's going to be no use for humans, right? Because they will be able to live in a world where we don't need to go to work and check in and get a paycheck every, bi-weekly. So then the question becomes, well, if we're not working, we don't go to a job, what do we as humans do? Because although we don't like our jobs, it does, whatever you do for work, it does give you a sense of accomplishment, a sense of worth, For me, I get that through verbal graffiti, stand-up comedy, videos that I make. My work is just work. But for a lot of people, like, their work is their livelihood, and it's what do you do? That question, what do you do? And then you explain what it is you do for money, and that is your answer. But once there's no work to be done because AI replaces you, there are spheres on the internet. Some say, well, you'll be able to just pursue your passions. You can make a verbal graffiti type project. You can paint. You could write poetry. Whatever toy cars. Whatever it is you do, you can just focus 100% on your passion. There will be a universal basic income, and it's almost, it almost becomes, second wave communism, maybe post-world communism, where everyone's getting paid the same except for the super elite. And then we're all just kind of roaming around as W-2 workers, just diddling our thumbs and trying to get through the day with whatever passions we may have. Personally, I think it's just going to lead to a lot of drinking and drug use, and we're already seeing some of that. But there's also a darker part of the the tinfoil hats, conspiratorial type people, which I am one of these people who think that this super elites, this depopulation, they want to get rid of us. This is middle class, higher upper middle class, lower class. Once AI takes all the jobs that we currently do, the elites have no use for us. And if we're not working for the elites, for their corporations, for their entities, then what, in their eyes, then what's the purpose of us? Then all we're really doing, post AI world, is we're extracting resources from this super duper elite. So of course the elite, if we're not working for them and we're taking resources that the elites think they should have a monopoly over, then of course the elites, being the lizard people that they are going to look down and say, well, let's depopulate some of these people, because the fewer of them, the more resources we have for ourselves. So we're headed towards a point where once the elites don't need us and the AI does it all, then it gets kooky. Then you got to tiptoe outside and watch your back, because I as I talk this out to you right now, just I've been thinking about this the past month or so. Like, it does, when you break it down like I just did, and I know it was fragmented, it does logically make sense that the elites will no longer want us on this earth if we're not doing anything for them, serving them to higher elitism. So it puts all of us who don't make a lot of money, it puts us in a precarious position in the next decade or so. And I don't know how this is all going to play out. Why do I bring this all up? I have been thinking about it, but also the next topic that I found on Reddit, that there is some symmetry, right? So let's get into it. If you can follow this mind, this maze, you will be amazed how I will take what I'm going to read now that I found on Reddit and bring it back to my opening here. Comes from the subreddit, I am wrong. The B-Man, I often am. Detailed accounts of our sex lives to his friends. So after a period of my spouse's increased sexual fantasies and intensity in sex, I found on his phone that he's texting his friends every time we have sex with disgusting detail. For example, what we do, where he comes, etc. It's so fucking gross. His friends does the same and talks about his girlfriend and what they do. Seems like they're in a competition of who can have the most craziest sex. It should be noted that my husband also writes to his friend how much I deny him, parentheses, which isn't that much. Am I wrong to be super fucking pissed that he would share this kind of detail with his friends? He knows how shy I am and how long it took me to open my fucking body to him. And now he's sharing every detail to his friends. What the fuck? Am I in the minority? We've had a number of similar posts that I've read on Verbal Graffiti where there is a babe very angry at her lover, faithful lover, for sharing photos, nude photos, videos, texts, naughty, intimate details like we have here. And are most of you babes, do you really get angry when your lover shares your intimate details, whether it be through written word or video or photo to his boys, to his friends? Because I've seen nothing wrong with this. This has always been my stance, even after reading this post. If you're a guy or a lady and you're sharing nudes with somebody else, that person you're sharing them to, or whatever intimate details, are going to get passed along to that person's friend group, and maybe even more groups. So you shouldn't. Are you wrong to be super fucking pissed? Yes. Yes. The only addendum I would make to being super fucking pissed is that you should be super pissed. I take away the word fucking. Because he didn't share any videos or actual photos of you in the nude to his friends. How should I describe what your husband was doing? It was what's that writing class you take in high school? Creative writing. That's basically what your husband was partaking in. He's taking part in a creative writing exercise with his friends. He's sharing his sexual exploits with his friends. And since you're super shy and your husband knows that, you are absolutely within your right to be super pissed. But since he's not sharing videos and photos of your titties and your slit, you do not have the right to be super fucking pissed. There is a difference. It may be minor to you, but to me, the B-Man, and all of us here at Verbal Graffiti, that is a big difference. Visual and just written. Now, where do you... See, I want to make an analogy here. I want to give you an economics lesson. Economics, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. If I don't know how to pronounce a word, should I be giving you a lesson in the topic? But we're doing it for fun here at Verbal Graffiti. So let me give you an economics lesson. See, there's a reason why communism always fails. Communism always fails, always leads to mass starvation and murder, is because whatever governing body that's in charge of a central government, they try to suppress one trait that humans possess that leads to progress. And that one trait is competitiveness. Humans by nature are competitive, and governing bodies within a communist government try to suppress that competition. And by doing so, that leads to stalemate. There is no progress within that country that is communist. So if there's no progress because competition has been stifled by the government and the people who are in control of that government, there's no progress, there's no wealth made, therefore everything is shared equally. And also another human trait that communism does not take into account is greediness. And greediness and competition kind of go hand in hand with each other. Like, oh, you have 2 gold coins? Well, I want to have 3 coins. So I'm going to take 1 of yours, get 2 of mine, and greed and competition together. And we go back and forth, back and forth. And then you have more money, I have more money. And then I have to hire people. Then you have to hire people. And it becomes this wealth war. But then everyone kind of, gets a little piece from it. And there's technology and everything kind of gets better. And you can live a more, not stress-free, but just a more luxurious living when you allow for competition and greed, but a communist system does not allow for that. And then, so instead of progressing, you regress, and that's where you lead either mass murder or mass starvation. And I'm setting this all up because what your husband is doing, and what you should be thankful that your loving, faithful husband is doing, is he's not a communist. He is a sexual capitalist. Now, he and his friends are sharing via text what they're each doing in the bedroom. And that, as you explained, they're kind of having a sexual freak off, a competition. Maybe I shouldn't say the word freak off because of everything that's going down with P. Diddy, but they're competing with each other. So they're engaging in a form of sexual capitalism. And you, although you may not realize it because it's through the raging, boiling anger that you have for your husband, you are the beneficiary of your husband's sexual capitalism. Because your loving, faithful husband and his friend are sharing their sexual exploits with each other and trying to one-up each other, your love life, your sexual life has increased. It's gotten freakier. It's gotten wilder. You're having sex more often. And this has nothing to do with you or your husband's love for you. It's all due because of the capitalism your husband and his best friend are partaking in. So you should be thankful for your husband for being a capitalist and not a communist that keeps everything he's doing with you in your bedroom private. Because if he were not to share his exploits with all of his friends, your love life, you'd probably reject him more. It'd continue to be as vanilla as it was before he started sharing what he was doing with you, with his friends. Now, so be thankful that your husband is a capitalist. The next aspect of your post that I want to address and we need to discuss is the term gross, like the details of your sex life. There's nothing about your sex life with your husband that is gross, right? You're married via the state and the church and your God or whomever, like you're married. You're not, there are plenty of posts that I read on Verbal Graffiti of 304s that slinging their slits to strangers they just met that night. That's not you. All right, this is not, you didn't hook up with them in high school behind the bleachers and then went and told everybody. No, you're married. Like we were expecting you to do the nasty in your master bedroom. So when you say what he's doing and where he's coming is gross, well, I'll tell you right now, to your face or through the camera, that your husband's semen is not gross. His cum, it provides life. All us Johns who just we hawk a dick loogie, and that loogie, there's nothing gross about that. It may look gross, but all the semen is what provides life. It's what passes. It's what keeps the species going. It's why we're here right now. Why you're able to write a post or type a post on Reddit. So there's nothing about the semen that is gross. Therefore, if you're saying where he comes is gross, that means that you're gross. Because if the cum is not gross, then where your husband is coming on is gross. And that's what you're telling us. Now, I don't think you are. Wherever your husband is coming, and I assume, and maybe this is an assumption I should not be making, but I am assuming he is coming, hawking his dick loogie somewhere on your person, whether it's your belly, inside of you, your face, your toes, your backside, wherever that is. If you think that's gross, that means you're gross. Now, I don't think it is. Even if he's coming on your toes, he has a foot fetish, and you have bunions. Your foot is not gross. It's lovely. Love your body. So stop thinking you're a gross person. Have more self-esteem. And my advice to you is, after you get past being super pissed, like we're pulling back the fucked. You're no longer super fucking pissed. You're just super pissed. But once you get past that and you learn the economic lesson that the B-Man just gave you here at Verbal Graffiti, and you suddenly, that anger will turn into, then thankfulness. And then the step after that is you want to lean in to your husband's sexual capitalism. And you want to encourage your husband not to share it just with his friend, but you want him to open up a group text with more of his friends. Therefore, the more people he has to share, sex stories with, it will increase the competition. No longer will it be just him and his buddy. It'll be him, his buddy, their friend that they knew in college, their high school buddies, and you'll have a whole group of people. The competition will increase. Therefore, your dick down will increase, and you'll be even more sexually satisfied. You're welcome. Let's go look at some photos. Episode 137, segment 2. I thought Maui was down for the count, but he's back up again. He was sleeping right behind me, the whole first segment of episode 137, but he's up again. And this is a problem with Maui. There aren't many problems with Maui, but one is that we have different schedules. He's playing with me all throughout this episode and the previous episode, whining, licking me, playing with toys, and I was trying to tire him out before I started filming Verbal Graffiti. But now, once I'm done with this episode, I'll be wide awake. Like, I have a black and white cookie I've been waiting all week to have after I film this episode. So I'll eat that, and then I'll want to go outside and play in the yard with him. It will be midnight, and we'll come in a rough house, but he won't do that. He'll sleep. And when I'm wide awake and I want to celebrate, being done with another episode and want to party, and he'll just, I'll have to lift him up to get him onto my bed. But what can you say? Dogs, they have different schedules than the B-Man. I hold this. This is a toy I got from Goodwill. I had an epiphany recently, last night. I went to Goodwill. Maui, he chews all the toys, especially if they're like stuffed animals. So I try to find like plastic ones. But you have these toys. Goodwill has like bags of toys and like stuffed animals you could buy for $5, and there's a bunch of them in it. And I realized that I love shopping at Goodwill. I finally understand when the babes say that they love a guy who doesn't have a routine that's a bit erratic. I get it. I get it now, because that's what I get with Goodwill. Now, you walk into Goodwill, it's a little erratic. You don't know, you kind of know where everything is, but you don't know what it is you're going to find in that section. And there's always something new, and there's always something a little surprising. And you always gotta, when you're in Goodwill, you gotta you got to use your periphery vision because there are always little toddlers, there are always strangers, there's stuff going on at Goodwill. So you got to use your sight in all five senses. But it is an enjoyment, okay? When I go to Goodwill, like, I'm not a big shopper. To be man, I'm an online shopper with sports cards and clothing, but very rarely do I go into an actual brick and mortar store to buy goods other than groceries. So when I go into Goodwill, like I always kind of have an idea of what I want to get or what I need to get for whatever video I'm making. But like yesterday, perfect example. I went to Goodwill. I wanted to find some tennis balls or something that Maui could chew on, and I had no idea that they just had they did bags that they put together, almost like goodie bags that you get at a children's birthday party when you were younger, and it just had a bunch of little toys in it. And I had no idea that the Goodwill I normally go to have these because I don't have kids. I'm not looking for toys. And they're all over the store. And that's the beauty of Goodwill. You go in there looking for something, but when you're in there, you meander around, and then you find, whoa, like I almost bought a skateboard. Right? Like I couldn't skateboard when I was 14. I did not have the balance or the agility to skateboard as a teenager. And yet, as a 41-year-old, I saw a skateboard for $4. And I thought, maybe I'll give it a try. Yeah, that skateboard nearly sold me. That was in Goodwill. That's the fun of Goodwill. You go into Goodwill looking for a toy, and then you walk out with a new hobby that you might break your ankle doing. That is the magic of Goodwill and why it's so fun to go there. I don't know, maybe once a month or so, and just you're going to learn something about yourself and about the others in your community when you step foot inside a Goodwill and spend a few minutes walking around. But it's always a good time. All right? Sometimes Goodwill will beat you up, but it's always, I gotta say, like I don't know how many times I've been to Goodwill the past year. Let's estimate, say I've been in Goodwill 15 times, there's not one specific one, but the Goodwills all over Connecticut. I've probably been in 15 the past 12 months, and every time I've walked out of there with something on my mind that was not there previously, and sometimes something in my hand that was not there previously. So the Goodwill, a tip of my penis to you. And to Maui, it looks like he's finally passed out and will not want to play with me after this episode, which is a bummer, but hey, we move forward. Goodwill, though, their prices are a bit higher than you would suspect. That's the only damper on Goodwill. Much better, though, than all those thrift stores in New York City. All right, Brian, you're rambling. Get back on topic. Focus. Okay, this I found on the subreddit, Big Dick Problems. Any of you have those? I finally understand why too much girth could be painful. Do tell. At first, I didn't really see my girth being that big. I have 6 inches in girth. I made a paper model of it and tried to put it in my mouth for a second, and my jaw hurts. I finally understand why blowjobs hurt women. It's crazy how, from my view, it doesn't look that big, but from the different view, it looks a lot bigger. It's very strange you say that, because I was always hoping it was the opposite. Like, when I look down at my wiener, now I am satisfied with my size, but I will admit I do not have a 6-inch girth wiener. But I always, like, when I look down, like my view of my wiener is like, I like it, but it's nothing special. It's a pedestrian wiener. But I always envisioned when a babe was down there looking at my wiener, Mr. Perfect, that it would look larger than it does from my point of view. But from what you're saying, it's the opposite. So, or maybe it's not. I don't know. This is a hard one for the B man to relate to, because I do not have 6 inches worth of girth. Mine fits like inside what those old magazines, like the Maxim, FHM or FMH, those like men's, like what like men's how would like men's culture magazines or men's issues magazines. I read one of those and there had this article saying if your penis fits inside of a toilet paper roll, like snugly, that you have an average girth dick. And that's exactly what mine is. Like I could fit my wiener, Mr. Perfect, inside a toilet paper roll, but it does fit snugly. So I'm happy with that. I'm not sure why I just shared all that with you. So let's move forward. Every guy, regardless of your girth, every John thinks his dick is edible until you make a paper mache model out of it and try to suck yourself off with that paper mache model. And as you fucked around and found out, you have a dick that's tougher to suck than a jawbreaker. So congratulations, a tip of my penis to you. I'm not sure if that's something. Like 6-inch girth it's extreme. It's something to be proud of, but it's something you cannot stick in a glory hole. Like your girth is probably too much to fit inside of a glory hole, so you'd have problems with that. As with women's mouths, the babe's mouth. Now, your babes, most of us Johns, and I've heard this complaint from a lot of babes who will say it's so frustrating. They get angry with us Johns because we'll shove our penises in their mouth like all willy nilly. We'll face fuck, skull fuck, dome, just deep throat. We'll do whatever terminology slang you want to use. We'll just stick it in there and start fucking your mouth without regard for your well-being. I'm not saying I have, but I've heard stories from babes telling me that Johns will do this. But do know, babes, that there are Johns out there, like our fellow right here, who has enough empathy for you and your mouths and your body that he went to such great lengths as to make a paper mache model of his penis and suck it to see how you feel doing, what you do with your mouth. So, he has empathy for you. So there are good Johns out there who care about you. And our fan of verbal graffiti right here is one of those guys. Sorry, I got an itch on my nose. There's a lot I want to say about our there's a lot I want to say, but I really have nothing to say because I cannot relate to our poster here. I have my penis is a mere mortal. I gotta learn how to speak. I have a mortal, just a normal human being penis, pedestrian, like I previously described it as. Mr. Perfect, he's a pedestrian. He fits inside a toilet paper roll. So I can't really, I'd be speaking out of pocket if I've started talking about how to use a 6-inch girth penis. That's foreign to me. So I can't give you any advice. All I can really do is ask some questions to you. And your girth, your penis, it is what it is. Congratulations. You have great genetics. Hope you have a bunch of sons who, you pass those genes along. But what I'm curious about, and what I want to ask you right now is, what do you do with the paper mache model of your penis after you tried sucking it and realized it hurt your jaw? Because you went through all the huss and the fuss and the dog and pony show and the arts and crafts project of making that paper mache model of your penis. I certainly hope you did not just throw it out. after you made it, after you sucked it. Like, to me, if I had a paper mache model of my penis, Mr. Perfect, I'd super glue it to the dashboard of my Toyota Camry, a 2011 model. That's what I would do, because I'd want to show it off to everybody. Like, I make that paper mache model of Mr. Perfect, and I'm putting it on the dashboard of a Toyota Camry, and I'm driving all around to whatever stand-up spots I'm doing. But what did you do with your model? That's what I'm interested in. Like, I'm envisioning, did you mount it on your living room wall, similar to like a deer's head? You go hunting, you get a deer, you stuff the head, you put it on the wall. Is that what you did with your paper mache model? Or did you put it in the front window of your house, similar to A Christmas Story with the famous lamp? Do you put it in the front window so when people in the neighborhood are walking their dogs, they can see, no, you're the big dog on the block? Do you even be a little more aggressive? Do you put it outside of your house? Maybe you have a garden out front, and you use that paper mache penis of yours model as a garden gnome, or it kind of acts as an ADT security system. That someone comes to rob your house, and then they see the girth you're packing, and they go, whoa, I'll cross the street, rob another house. I don't want to fuck around and find out with a 6-inch girth penis. I don't want to be fucked with that. So they tiptoe to another house with their mask on. Or do you put it on the kitchen island, or maybe next to the KitchenAid? If you're a bit freaky, or a little bit more private, I gotta envision you're probably not a private guy if you're making a paper mache model of your penis. So maybe you do put it on the kitchen island, or maybe your master bedroom, you put it on like the bedside table. So when you have a floozy with a punani that's so wide she could fit in a paper model airplane, and she's doing a reverse cowgirl style. So when she's doing that, she can look at the paper mache model and admire it and be, wow, that's inside. I'm fucking that right now, but the real thing, not just the model. So that's where my mind is wandering to. What did you do with this paper mache of your penis after you attempted to suck it off? If you can let us know down in the comments, it would be much appreciated. Well, we don't have any merchandise, so we won't send you anything, but we will let our audience know next episode of Verbal Graffiti, if you let us know, if you happen to be. Actually, you know what? Any of you who have made a paper mache of your penis, what do you do with it? Let the B-Man know here at Verbal Graffiti. Moving along, we are going to continue reading A Salesman's Wife by the great author John Lawrence. We are on the top of page 147, I believe. Yes, top of page 147. We will read 2 pages together aloud. Leaving Alan still dazed and delirious on the couch, Mavis left the room, having stripped herself of all her leather costume, and ran quickly to the second floor, stark naked, to retrieve her clothes from the fantasy room. As she reached the second floor and was about to enter the room, the door to the room at the end of the hall opened and Justin appeared. His wife was paralyzed when she saw him, for his eyes were blazing insanely and his face was contorted with a crazy, bloodthirsty expression that was unlike anything she had ever seen. He was naked. "Justin, what's wrong?" she asked, alarmed by his appearance. Nothing, he snapped. He lunged forward and grabbed her arm. "You come with me. Bitch, I need you." "But darling," she protested, "I can't. I must tell you." But her efforts to warn her husband and Alan Burns was waiting in the room below were of no avail, for Carlsberg's mind had slipped completely out of control. The savage shock of being revealed in all his debauchery in front of his patient was so disturbing that he had lost all touch with reason. Instead, he was caught in the maelstrom of a sexuality and revenge that knew no limit. "You bitch," he snarled as he forced her into the dark room. "You come with me. You obey me without question." "Justin, what's the matter? I've never seen you like this." He shoved her inside the room and slammed the door shut. Mavis saw at once that Pamela was lying naked in a crumpled heap on the oriental carpet on the floor. From the look of her, Carlsberg had been screwing her with violent intensity, for her hair was completely disheveled and her eyes were frozen in terror. She was moaning incoherently, calling for her husband. "I have to tell you something," Mavis said desperately, trying to tell Justin about Pamela's husband. "I don't want to hear another word, cunt," he shouted brutally. "I'm in session. I'm the master here. You do as I command." His eyes were bulging like a madman's and flecks of spittle formed at the sides of his twisted mouth. Mavis knew immediately that something must have snapped in his head, for she had never seen him behave so outrageously before. He had never been out of control like this. "Now you bitch," he snarled at his wife. "I want you to put your face into that sweet little pussy on the floor. You must teach Pamela that in order to love, she must love women as well as men. Isn't that right? Isn't it?" "Justin, please," she cried to her husband. "You're upset." "Go suck a fat one."